Region of the Herald yesterday afternoon with Mego and I think it was the entire rest of the station.
Yeah.
Andy Hart, Fitzy.
Yep.
Ken.
Yeah, good, great interview. And so they looked under the hood when it comes to the New England Patriots, and the engine had thrown a rod. Apparently, I do think it's interesting that there's Karen goes out of her way to point out that there's many players, not as Wiggy was suggesting yesterday, one Mac Jones, who is driving the narrative.
I said more than Mac. Anytime I say Mac Jones, it's the only thing you hear.
We have 30 minutes, you two. Can we survive the end of the show?
Well, if he stops coming up with the fraudulent lines that he's saying, I said.
Yeah, you just said he was the number one.
Yeah.
And that is the case if you are the quarterback of a team and there are multiple sources and you speak. That, of course, you're going to be the number one source.
In the Twitch chat this morning, number one player hater, 55, says Mac Jones definitely was the source. He sucks and he's soft like most millennials of my generation. So they're blaming it on his. He's not even a millennial. He's pre-millennial, isn't he?
Yeah. Mac?
Yeah.
Gen Zer?
I think so.
No, I think Mac Jones is the very end of millennial. I don't think he's a Gen Zer yet.
I try and not get into the, oversimplification of judging people simply by when they were born. But if we're going to keep ripping millennials, don't we have to rip Greg and people of his age that raised them?
True. I think you're right about that.
I mean,
if
you don't want soft kids, don't raise them to be soft.
Also
like me.
not a millennial.
By the way, I grew up in Dover, Medfield line. It was crazy. It was basically like living in Roslindale.
But Curtis, you were raised with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Nope.
You have brought yourself to a point where you don't act like that. You're not whining about work things.
I'm honored to do this for my life. This is all I ever wanted to do. The fact that I get to do it with people I enjoy, there's nothing I would want more. So I'm not going to sit here and, judge people for their lives and what they choose to do. I'm simply going to say that the entire environment has changed in less than 3 years. We have become what we mocked. We change coordinators every year. What's the direction? What's the team doing? There's infighting. There are certain cliques. There are coaches in positions they shouldn't be in. Like, all of this stuff.
Do you think heading into last season, Bill had some sort of understanding that he was going to be able to get Bill O'Brien this season?
No.
That Patricia Judge was a placeholder?
No, I don't think that Bill was like, this season's going to be a wash until I can get Bill, so let me just go with Patricia and Judge. I thought he was, doing something different, and he thought it was all going to work out.
Right.
I truly think he made a massive mistake, and he knows that now, but going into last season, he thought it was going to work.
It's kind of like I'm almost caught in this world, because it pains me to say, is it time for Bill to move on?
Oh.
Because unless he's going to pay elite playmakers, these guys are not going to buy into how you do things. Like the days of what you used to do, players are not buying into that. Players, even with Billy O'Brien, like we heard in Alabama, those guys didn't like the way he coached them down there. What the hell's going to be the difference when he coaches the guys here? These guys are not going to like him. It's almost like you have to change how you, and we had Dante Scarnecchia on, but, and I kind of disagree, but you have to change who you are as a coach to be able to coach these guys. You need to be like the Kyle Shanahans and the Nick Siriannis and the Zach Taylors.
He's never going to be like that. It's too late for him to be like that.
Well, then you either got to go out and get the elite athletes, or Robert Kraft is going to say, I need to get one of those guys.
This offseason is going to be, in a word, fascinating, because who are they targeting? What are they spending their money on? Are they making their life easier for Mac? Are they bringing in more defensive guys? Are they not spending? We all believe that Bill Belichick wants to spend, correct? He brought up the 27th in cash spending at the press conference unprovoked. So if they don't spend, it's amazing how interesting this team is, even when they're not that good.
This is Tom from Connecticut. Hey, Tom.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
What's up?
Grew up in Winchester, but love you, Courtney.
Thank you.
everyone's all worked up that Bill doesn't gush about a second-year quarterback who had one decent year and one lousy year. Bill spent 20 years not gushing about Tom Brady, who was never named Player of the Week. Brady's attitude was, hey, I'll show this guy, and he did. Mac's attitude has been to whine and cry to anybody who will listen. I'll just bet that Billy O'Brien will straighten him out and quick.
But
Thanks,
I don't think that any of us are asking for Bill to gush about Mac. All we've said is he has shown no commitment to him. That's all. It's a simple, yes, Mac's our quarterback. He doesn't need to say Mac's the greatest. He doesn't need to gush about him, which he did, by the way, before the season last year when he said Mac has made dramatic improvements. So, like, I don't understand that way of thinking at all.
I also think when Tom Brady was here, whenever it was asked, is Tom Brady your quarterback next year, Bill almost, like, laughed at the question. Like, are you really asking me that? Of course he is. It was almost shutting people down. Instead of giving these weird responses that are no answers, just saying that Mac has proven that he can be a quarterback in the NFL, that's so bad.
And here's a guy that's been the most progressive coach in all of football for 20 years. Game plan specific schemes, diagnosing things independently, showing them to certain teams based on strengths and weaknesses. He also has to evolve with the player.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Tom Brady's don't exist. Peyton Manning's don't exist. Players need to be coddled a bit more. You need to adjust.
The X's and O's isn't as important as you need to be able to evolve with the way that these players think and how they feel.
Okay, but the argument that Mac Jones is going to be unable to be coached hard by Bill O'Brien when he was coached hard successfully by Nick Saban.
He wasn't coached. Stop it, Greg. That's a fake narrative.
It's laughable.
It's a fake narrative. Billy O'Brien has been the offensive coordinator at the University of Alabama, where Nick Saban has been the head coach, and those guys complained down there. Every last one of those guys were complaining the way Billy
didn't.
Mac, he wasn't there with him. Steve Sarkisian was the offensive coordinator when Mac was.
You don't think he was coached hard by Nick Saban? What's wrong with you?
So, listen, so why are these guys complaining about Billy O'Brien?
I don't know, 'cause people complain left and right. I don't know.
So how come Alabama players weren't complaining when Steve Sarkisian was there as the offensive coordinator? They weren't complaining when Brian Daboll was there as the offensive coordinator. They weren't complaining when Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator. All of a sudden, in the past 3 years, they have these guys down there, whether it's Bryce Young and some of these other players, have been complaining about how hard Billy O'Brien is and how difficult it is to play for them. So now you're telling me, and we already know from talking to the Skarnecchia, that that's who he is. He's not going to change. He's now going to come here and blow up on Devontae Parker, and Devontae Parker's going to be cool with it?
I think in the case of Billy O'Brien, somebody who knows what they're doing, you're willing to be coached hard by that person.
It doesn't matter.
They have credibility attached to it.
He went blow for blow with Brady on the side. Did you see that video?
It's different when Joe Judge is trying to raise his voice, having just destroyed an NFL franchise, which, by the way, is much better quarterback-wise. Once he left, it's easier to be coached hard by a guy who knows what he's doing than some idiot like Joe Judge.
How many guys, truthfully, on this team,
don't lie,
except for the guys who didn't go to Alabama, even know who the hell Billy O'Brien is?
I don't know.
I bet most of these guys don't know Billy O'Brien. They probably just like, okay, he's another offensive coordinator who's going to come in and we don't know how he is. Mac, you didn't play for him. Did anybody play for him? Who do we know? He would not leave Brady alone in that video where he was going. He wasn't even backing down.
Yeah.
And Brady stopped talking, and Billy O just kept going. And now you're telling me that the players on this team with the unnamed sources, and we've heard from Karen Garigian on how there's been several guys complaining, they're all going to be able to just
No, you can't have it both way. If you're going to say millennials don't like to complain about work all the time, this is only going to add to it.
Right.
All right, we're about to get to Nick Costos in a moment. This is Fran from Boston. Yes, Fran.
Hillman, Happy New Year to you and the crew. How is everybody?
Great. How are you? Happy New Year.
Very good. Hey, Wiggy, I love you, but I got to put you on the spot, my friend.
Go ahead.
Listen, I think to settle this dispute between you and the Hillman, I think that Curtis or one of you guys need to do a compilation of your commentary pre-draft, all the way up till now on the quarterback at the New England Patriots. I'm not saying he's the best, but you have torn him apart pre-draft, draft,
Right.
post-draft since day one.
He has a bias. He has a bias
you know,
against him.
Fran, who's
Oh,
more?
huge bias.
Fran,
Huge
let me
bias.
ask you this:
Go-
Who's
Go ahead.
close? Who's closer to being right? Me, the guy who said, "Well, he's probably just a middle of the road quarterback," or Greg, the guy who said, "Oh, we have the next Brady."
Better than Brady. is what he said.
I'll be Wiggy, I'll be honest with you. Year one, you were wrong. Year two, you were right. I say we wait for year three.
Thank you.
We get the
Yes.
new coaching staff in, and then
we'll judge.
you guys
I
can have
agree.
the, you
I agree.